Are you ready to learn life-changing strategies on how to bully-proof yourself, your kids, and others? Are you ready to be empowered with hope, faith, and confidence to believe in yourself, to overcome your fears and battle through your challenges, to stand up to any bully you face, both real and in your mind? Well, you've come to the right place. Greetings and welcome to another uplifting, life-changing episode of the Building Warrior Confidence Podcast. Woohoo! Well, how are we doing today? Hopefully you're having a great day, and this episode, is going to make it even better. And if you're not, then I'm hopeful that this episode is exactly what you need right now to turn your day around. Well, I'm your host, Master Rich Grogan, and I'm truly blessed and so very grateful for your time. And I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to give you everything I can to make our time together valuable, enjoyable, and educational. Sound good? All right, well, let's dive right in. Well, this is episode number 331, and the title of this episode is Cat on the Hot Stove Syndrome, how it shatters confidence and ways to overcome it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So my first question is, have you ever been burnt before? You're like, well, what kind of burnt? Like burnt on a stove? Like a hot stove, or burnt by a campfire, or what are you talking about? Well, those kind of burns, yes, and that's flesh burns, and those hurt. My gosh, nothing worse than severed skin. If you've been burnt on a stove before, you know how badly that feels. But the burnt I'm talking about is, and it's kind of why the cat on the hot stove syndrome come about and how it does shatter your confidence, and then we're going to talk about ways to overcome it, is being burnt by someone else. Having someone take advantage of you, or you feel manipulated or even bullied. Has that ever happened? Of course it has. Unfortunately, of course it has. Well, it's happened to me many times as well. And what happens is, once you've been burnt once, you put up a defensive mechanism, right? Because you're not going to allow it to happen again. There's an old saying, if you take advantage of me, shame on you the first time for doing it. If it happens a second time, then shame on me for allowing it to happen a second time and not being wiser and smarter and learning from the experience. Right? Yeah, we've all heard that. And then we put up our defensive barriers, right? Yeah. Well, the bad thing about that is, just because one situation or one time you were burnt, that doesn't mean we totally shut it out. We learn from it. We gain the experience from it, the wisdom from it, and we come at it again with a little different approach. Now, if it's someone that's taking advantage of you, that's when you got to be leery. But something is different. You might be saying, what are you talking about? Huh. Well, how about church? Like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been burnt by churches before. All those churches are the same. All they care about is taking your money, and they preach one thing, and nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. And I say all this from experience because I felt that exact same way. I had a church growing up, and it's exactly what I felt was unfortunately happening to my poor grandma. Yeah, being taken advantage of. And it didn't help the fact that my dad didn't trust, he didn't trust anybody. He grew up, only had an 8th grade education, and, finally gets some stability in his life, and he gets shipped off to Vietnam, and he was part of 101st Airborne Division, and what a disaster that was in 68 and 69. So he came back hardened. Boy, it was as if he wasn't hardened before. He was really hardened then, and he just kind of put up barriers and walls. And unfortunately, one of his things were, Richie, don't you ever trust anybody. You don't have to ever worry about anybody taking advantage of you. Now, on the other side, my grandma would say, and my mom would say, well, your dad says that because he wants to protect you. He wants to keep you from being hurt and harmed. And, that's just his approach on life because he's been burnt so many times. And he can see that you have a really big, kind heart, and he wants to protect you in the best way he knows how. But mom and grandma on the other side would say, it's better to trust everybody and only be wrong a few times. And yeah, you get burnt from it, but you learn from it, than to not trust anybody at all. And of course, I guess you never get burnt, but then you really can't let anybody in. So it's a balance, just like anything else in life. But church was one that, and the more he talked about it, the more I kind of started opening my eyes to see it. And of course, that was his point all along, was he did the best he could do with what he had. And those listening out there, if your dad's listening, you want to do the very best you can to protect your kids. So you give them the advice based on the experiences and lessons that you've learned. If you're an instructor or a teacher or a coach, the same thing. based on your experiences to help your athletes and any other, I let a lot of moms listen, and I'm so very grateful for that as well. Same thing, if you're talking to your sons, your daughters, based on the experiences and the things you've learned. And that's the best we can do, is go off what we have learned, our own experiences. But at the same time, kind of my goal with the podcast and the videos and the books and everything else is to kind of share personal stories and personal experiences that I've went through, what I've learned from it, and hopefully save you from some of the struggles and troubles, and you can utilize this information in a way that's going to help you with those conversations with your kids or with your players or your athletes or your students, or just help you, period, with the conversations you're having in your own life. And but the church example, that was that was a rough one for Dad, and I could see it. And then I got a little burnt by the church too, and I had that right in my head. Well, they're all the same. All the churches, that's all they care about. And by doing that, I'm not going to get burnt by a church again. But at the same time, I'm keeping myself away from something that is extremely valuable. Now, shame on that church for doing it, but I've also got to realize that not all churches are like that. Does that make sense? And I'll dive back into that a little bit more later, but I just want to give that as an example. And other examples, if you've ever bought a used car and you end up getting a lemon, oh, what do you say? Oh, dang it, all those used car salesmen are exactly the same. I'm never getting another used car. Absolutely not. Oh, you're all crooks. You're all criminals. You should all be thrown in jail. You ever heard that before? You ever said that before? I've been guilty of doing that myself as well. Or maybe in relationships. You have a few bad dating relationships. Same thing. Or sometimes often at our martial arts academy, would have folks I'd run into at different events and say, hey, you're that karate guy. Yes, yeah, I'm Rich Krogan. And they say, oh, well, you seem like a nice guy, but boy, I don't know. I took my kids to a guy down the road there, and all he wanted was money, 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 money. My kid didn't learn a gosh darn thing, and now, and then it scared him, intimidated him. He's never going back, and all we did is waste a bunch of money. Well, that person was burnt, unfortunately, by a martial arts instructor that maybe didn't have the core values that we try and instill. And of course, that's unfortunate because they'll never go back. Same thing. If your kids have maybe a teacher that you don't align with in whatever way, shape, or form, well, that's one teacher. That doesn't mean all teachers are the same, right? Just like anything in life. There's good ones, and then there's, let's be honest, bad ones, right? Yeah. But just because you get a few bad ones doesn't mean you put up that wall and that barrier. So what does this have to do with cat on the hot stove? Kind of kept you in suspense there for just a little bit. What is that all about? Well, the old adage goes, if a cat jumps up on the stove and it's hot and the cat gets burnt, it'll never jump up on a hot stove again. But you know what else? That cat won't jump on a cold stove either. That cat flat out don't like stoves, right? So it doesn't know if the stove's hot or cold. All it knows, and in its experience and its wisdom now, the last time I jumped up there, that sucker was hot, and I got burnt. So I don't know if it's always hot or not, but all I know is I got burnt. I'm never getting burnt again. So that's kind of the old saying. The cat will never jump on a hot stove again or a cold stove because that cat flat out doesn't like stoves. And hopefully you can see how that ties everything into what I'm saying here about being burnt before, whether it be at a church and whether it be at with a relationship or with a teacher or a martial arts academy or with maybe you hired a personal trainer before and that personal trainer just didn't work out. But you want to get in better shape. It's like, well, where do I go to? All those personal trainers are all alike. No, the cat thinks every stove's alike because it got burnt. But that's not true. You kind of see where I'm going with this? Yeah. What else? Well, how about selling your house? If you got a realtor that maybe was a little bit of a shady realtor, you got a bad experience. Does that mean you never ever sell your house again? No. You go based on the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience you had. Maybe do a little better research. Maybe check out reviews. Maybe check out with other friends or family members that have sold a house before. And then don't be afraid. And this is kind of the ways to overcome this cat on the hot stove syndrome. Because, let me back up just a second. When I talked about shatters your confidence, people say, well, it hardens me. It makes me wiser. Yes, it does all those things. But it also puts you in a sense where you feel so vulnerable that you're not allowing yourself, pretty much lacking confidence, to do anything that you've been burnt on listen to me, burnt far on, tongue twister here, before. And maybe that is, you want to get in better shape, but you can't trust personal trainers now. That means you don't have confidence, well, unfortunately, in yourself to do what needs to be done. And that means talk to 3 or 4 different personal trainers or realtors if you're selling your house. So I'll just sell it on my own. Oh, I'll just exercise on my own. Oh, I'll just do this on my own. And that's all fine and dandy if you've got the time, the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience, and the resources to do it. But that gets into a whole nother area I'm going to talk about in just a minute with an accountant and how I didn't have the best experiences with our business with an accountant, so I tried to do it on my own. And what I do, my purpose in this world is self-empowerment, right? Confidence building, bully-proof, building that warrior confidence, bully-proof armor, talking to people and motivating people, coaching, educating. Yeah, that's mine. And when we had the Martial Arts Academy before we sold it, the goal there, what I did was all those things and then ran the business. But what I was not engineered for or prepared for, trained for, was accounting. Well, what happened? Well, I tried, and I didn't have a whole lot of money when we first started off. Matter of fact, and some of you know this, could have very easily really suffered from the cat on the hot stove syndrome because we've been bankrupt twice and house foreclosed on, cars repossessed, all those things because I was not a very good business person. I just always thought I could outwork my problems. But I had an accountant, and all I know is I ended up having to, I never knew what was going on. Well, finally, enough was enough. And unfortunately, a lot of times you get to that point, the boiling point, where you finally just say, enough. I'm never trusting him again. So I tried to handle the accounting on my own. You talk about a disaster. Oh, my gosh. It was terrible. I never did anything wrong or criminal, but the tax codes and tax laws and everything changed. And I had QuickBooks, and I remember this, it was QuickBooks 99 that I bought. And you could do the upgrades, but after a time, you needed to continuously pay like QuickBooks. When they started off, it was good for like 1 or 2, maybe 3 years. And then after that, you had to each buy every new year, buy the new version of it. And if you didn't do that, it wouldn't automatically update the tax codes. Now, you may be saying, well, dang it, didn't you know that? Well, I probably should have known that. But all I know is I couldn't pay the bills to begin with here. And I sure as heck didn't want to buy another QuickBooks copy. So I just went with it. And of course, looking back in hindsight, that was dumb. But I was going based on the knowledge and wisdom experience I had then. Well, I got fined, and of course, you end up paying for your mistakes. It's because I didn't think I could afford an accountant. Well, I found out very soon, man, I needed to. But I can't afford an accountant who's not going to do what needs to be done because I got burnt before. Well, long story short, the accountant I have now I've had for well over a decade. Absolutely fantastic. And that never would have happened. I never would have been in a position because I'd have been spending all my time trying to work on accounting that I know nothing about, nor can I keep up with all the tax codes and changes. And now, we moved to Florida now, so we still got the business in Illinois and then one in Florida here. That's just a lot of stuff. But now I really feel comfortable and confident with the accountant I have. But I had to do the research. I had to search out. I had to talk to friends that were business owners. Who do they use? And then do the interview process. Yes, it took some time. However, you put in that little time up front, it's going to save you a ton of time on the back end. So I tell you all that. One, if you need an accountant, or even if you've had an accountant for years, you might think, oh, well, I don't think it's working right. I'm definitely not getting the savings, or I'm paying too much, or I just feel, well, you can keep going in that way, or you can put in a little time now and say, you know what, I'm gonna find someone a little bit better because they're not all the same. The same thing. If you've thought about hiring a personal trainer or going to a martial arts class, maybe you've been burnt in the past. Maybe you're the cat on the hot stove. Not everybody's the same. Good? Does that help a little bit? And I wanted to keep this one short and sweet. This is our Feel Good Friday weekend challenge. So it was going to be, try and keep this baby under 20 minutes. But I want to give you those examples and let you build upon and plug in your own experiences, where you've been burnt, who's burnt you, and then what you can do to, and look deep inside yourself. It does shatter your confidence because when you stop believing in everyone, essentially you stop believing and trusting yourself to dig a little deeper to find out the true intentions. And then that's kind of the worst thing of all because you end up actually bullying yourself. And, I talk a lot about the bullying yourself and the part of everything we do is empowering you with that warrior confidence to believe in yourself, to the bully-proof armor. Not only the bullies out there, but the meanest bully is the one in our mind. And we allow that bully in our mind to run rapid, saying, oh, I don't trust that person, I don't trust that person, I don't trust that person. And maybe those people don't deserve your trust. But once again, my whole point with today's show is don't lump everybody in together. And I've tried to give you several examples. My few notes here. A restaurant, same thing. Oh, you restaurant people are the same. Oh, all you, karate people. I keep going back to that one because my gosh, the amount of times I would hear that, we're all the same. Well, we're not. All you churches are the same. Do your research. And the church we found down here in Florida, Bayside Community Church, we were so very happy with. And they remind me so much of what we said at the Martial Arts Academy. We'd say right up front when people would come in, hey, we're not for everybody. And that's okay. We'll do our best to make it right for you as long as we don't breach our core values. And our core values are honor, integrity, discipline, and respect. In a nutshell, what that meant was we're not giving the kids the belts they haven't worked hard and earned, because we're not giving them a false sense of confidence and giving them a belt that they didn't do anything to earn, because all that does is teaches kids that they don't have to put in the work, they don't have to put in the effort, and they don't have to know anything, but they're still being rewarded. That's just not right, because sooner or later in life, kids are going to find out that, man, they're not always going to get a trophy. They're not always going to get an A. They're not always going to get a belt. And my philosophy is, if they don't learn how to overcome small challenges, now you can help and you can guide them. You're not going to hang them out to dry. But if they don't learn how to overcome small challenges, there's no way they're going to be able to overcome teenage or adult challenges. So that's why we got to help them learn and earn every step of the way. I hope that makes sense. Everything kind of tying a lot of stuff in together here and then trying to cram it all in under 20 minutes. So, cat on the hot stove. Have you been burnt before? Yeah. Has it shattered your confidence? Probably, more than likely. And now we've got some ways to overcome it. And the ways to overcome it is, one, trust enough in yourself to say, yep, that happened. Yep, that church, that wasn't right for me. They took advantage of me. And, I almost forgot to finish the loop there. I was talking about the Martial Arts Academy, saying we're not for everybody. We would do what we can, but if it wasn't a right fit for them to be a student of ours, or for us to take them on as a student, would say, we'll try and find a place that maybe is better suited for what you're looking for. Because we didn't have, one of our main competitors had a 2-year guaranteed black belt program. Whatever. I mean, to each their own. My philosophy was that in order to, one, I've never seen a belt or a trophy protect anybody. It's the knowledge and experience and wisdom and tools that you've earned, not given, but earned over the course of time. In our situation, in order to become a black belt, was anywhere from about 6 to 7 years of continuously training, working hard to get it, because you're going to earn it. You're going to know how to protect yourself, which is the ultimate goal. It doesn't matter if I get, oftentimes in class, I'd say, all right, kids, who wants Master Grogan's belt? I said, all right, so now you're a master. You're 8 years old. What are you going to do when I come up to punch you in the face? Of course, I'm joking, but the kid's like, I don't know. I said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you hand me my belt back, and then we'll work toward giving you that, helping you earn that knowledge and experience and wisdom, so you will know how to do it. And then when we get to the point in time, 25 years later, then you can get your master's belt. How's that sound? 25 years, I'm 10 years old. But you see where I'm going with this. But the ways to overcome it and the ways to continuously build your self-confidence is by doing that little extra, that little respect yourself enough to have the discipline to, if you, we're going to go back to church. We're really going to do this. We need to have, some kind of spiritual value in our life. We went to probably 7, 8 different churches down here before we found the one that we were connected with. Now, I'm a human, so after a couple of them, we're like, darn, are all these churches the same? And it popped in my head, cat on the hot stove. And I tell you this because these are the true thoughts that pop in my head, and by conditioning myself to say that, because I'm a human. You get burnt a couple times, that's almost a go-to, right? All of it's the same. But the more you catch yourself, that's cat on the hot stove syndrome. I want to do a little better job. I want to have a good spiritual connection here. I want to find a church that's Bible-based. They're talking about what's in the Bible, not which way the wind blows in society is the path they're going to follow. And that's Bible-based. And the same thing with selling our house before we moved to Florida here. We looked around. We did research because we actually had our house up on the market 2 times prior to when we finally sold it to move here to Florida. Now, we were thinking about buying another house in the Edwardsville, Illinois area, which at the time when it didn't go through, was like, gosh darn, what the heck's going on here? Well, it just wasn't meant to be, and those weren't meant to be our realtors, and the timing wasn't right and everything else. But we didn't give up. And we could have got burnt and said, I guess we'll just stay here the rest of our lives. No, we wanted something better. And the same thing with the gym membership. Just because you join a gym, that may not be the right gym for you. And it's okay to turn in your notice and go to another gym. But don't just quit just because you've been burnt once. And when you find, like we found the church that we really like, that boosts your confidence. All right, you feel better about it. You didn't enjoy the struggle, the trouble of, constantly going to a different church every Sunday trying to find one, or searching around and going to different health clubs or different restaurants to find one that you really like, you really enjoy, or accountant, or a realtor, or buying a car, or if you're dating in the dating world, finding a relationship that's right for you. My whole point on all this is, one, don't settle. Don't settle just because you're tired of looking, because that burn's never going to go away and you're always going to have it in the back of your head. And two, just because you've been burnt once or twice, don't allow that same person to burn you again, but learn from it. Utilize that experience to build that confidence, because you never know what's waiting on the other end. Like we never, ever, when we first put our house up, I guess 5 years ago now, just to buy another house in the area, we had 3 acres, and this place had 15 acres we really liked. Well, we didn't understand why the deal just didn't work out, did not go through. We didn't actually, at that time, nobody. Our house was on the market for like 8 months, and we didn't have one person come and look. Now, we had a couple open houses, and we had a handful of people trickle in and out. We were like, what the heck? And that's a whole other podcast and a whole other topic, talking about we now have any idea what God has planned for us. But it didn't work out. It was painful at the time. It was frustrating at the time, especially if you've ever shown your house. Every time you have a showing or every time you have a open house, you got to get that baby. And we've got I had 3 kids, and I had a dog and 3 cats. We had 2 dogs at the time. Holy crap. Oh, my gosh. Thinking about getting all that. We keep the house fairly clean, but it wasn't show-ready clean. So there was a lot of times we didn't want to do it, but we did. Does that help out? I hope so. And hopefully you enjoyed all the different examples I've shared with you here. As I mentioned, I'm going to be an open book, be very transparent with everything. Before, I didn't used to do that because I was embarrassed by the failures and the setbacks. And for whatever reason, I thought, and this is another reason, the people you surround yourself with are the ones that are going to help you overcome your shattered confidence, or help you overcome being burnt by someone else, because they've been there, they've done that. They're going to be transparent with you, and they're going to help guide you along the way here. For whatever reason, I didn't think I could share those things with, this was years ago, that, I had to be perfect. Well, nobody's perfect. And by trying to be something I wasn't, I was coming off more fake and then that bothered me because I knew I wasn't being open and genuine. Does that sound like another hot stove syndrome? Yes, it does. So just so I don't forget, be sure to stay empowered throughout the week, following on our YouTube channel and our Facebook and Instagram pages at Warrior Confidence. And our YouTube channel is really, really taken off. And thank you so very much for those that have subscribed. And if you haven't, jump over there and make sure you do so. We're putting out 2 to 3 new videos, high impact, powerful warrior confidence, and how to build your bulletproof armor, and just some tips 2 to 3 times a week. So check those things out. And, this podcast, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. And also kindly leave a 5-star review. That's what helps push that podcast up in the search engines for others to find it. And, of course, last, if you haven't picked up a copy of our books, we've got Becoming Bullyproof and I Believe in Me, which is a A through Z positive affirmation book for little kids. Check those out on Amazon and kindly leave a review on those as well. Sound good? And you can just look under my name, Rich Grogan, or you can go to our website. We've got a couple different links that get you there. warriorconfidence.com or grogansbullyproof.com will both get you there. Okay, glad I remembered that again. So recap, because I promised I'd keep this short. It looks like I've already went over the 20 minutes, but just a little bit. What did we learn today? What did we cover today? Well, we covered just because you've been burnt before, don't suffer from the cat on the hot stove syndrome. Don't let it shatter your confidence, the fact that you don't trust anyone or anything anymore. Learn from it. Utilize the experience and the wisdom you've gained from it, and go at it with just a little more knowledgeable approach. Because if you don't, your confidence, the only way to restore your confidence truly in anything is to tackle what scares you the most, to do something you're fearful of, to overcome, and then achieve and be rewarded with that success. But you have to put in the work. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the discipline. And it all starts by respecting yourself. Yeah, self-respect. Oftentimes I talk about people that bully others. They bully others because they have very little, if any, respect for themselves. And without self-respect, it's very difficult to respect anything or anyone else. And unfortunately, on the other side of that, with us, anytime that we're lacking confidence, then we start to disrespect ourselves simply because we've lost that belief in us. And we've also lost that belief in humanity or in the world. Oh, everybody's the same. Everybody's a crook. Everybody's this. And we start generalizing everybody and everything. That makes it tough. Now, I tell you that because the number of times I've said that. Oh, everything is terrible. Everybody's terrible. Everybody, I don't know why I even trust anybody anymore. Man, and once you go down that road, it's hard as heck to get out of it. That is the cat on the hot stove. Every stove is bad. Every stove is meant to burn me, says the cat. Kind of silly, kind of goofy. So, well, that's just me. I appreciate you listening and getting through all my bad jokes. As always, be sure if listen to this more than once, listen in the car, listen with your kids and talk about it and share the experience with them, and then share it with somebody that could benefit from this message. That's how we kind of continuously get the word out to make life better. Because if people are happier and healthier, man, that's going to make society a lot safer for all of us, right? Yeah. And maybe people that maybe they haven't been burnt by a hot stove or a martial arts academy or a car dealer or a relationship or a church. We don't know, but we can definitely know how we're going to help them. And if we've learned from it, I'll tell you what, that's how you really take your confidence to a whole another level is share that empowerment with someone else. Good. So what's your challenge for this weekend? Well, your challenge is to look at something in some way that you've been burnt before, kind of do a deep dive. And see how's your confidence? How do you feel about yourself, about that situation? And ask yourself if you've said that before. Oh, they're all the same. And do that little deep dive, figure it out, and then utilize what we talked about today to kind of overcome that, to give it another shot, to not give up on it, especially if it's something you want to do, especially if it's, I talk a lot about your health and your nutrition and exercise and fitness. Man, the healthier you are, there's an old saying, when you're healthy, you have hundreds of goals. When you're unhealthy, you got one to get healthy, right? Yeah, I kind of answered that for you. Good. Well, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully this is exactly what you needed to hear today. I love your comments, your feedback, and I can't stress enough about the YouTube channel because we're really going to town with that. We're going to continue releasing 2 to 3 YouTube videos out a week, and then the podcast. Right now we're doing 2, but we're going to bump that up to 3 here real shortly. Real shortly, is that how you say that? Well, soon. How about that? And therefore, you'll get 3 podcasts a week and 2 to 3 videos a week, and just a way to kind of continue to empower you. And just to tease you, we got a podcast coming up real soon, and it's going to be on motivation. Some say motivation doesn't last, and they're right. Motivation doesn't last. Well, guess what? Neither does bathing. That's why I recommend it every day. Woo! That's a little Zig Ziglar for you there. And of course, you're going to get a lot of Zig Ziglar coming from me. I'm blessed that I'm Ziglar legacy certified trainer, speaker, coach, and consider Tom Ziglar, Zig's son, a close personal friend. I get tongue-tied when I get excited. All right. Well, folks, thank you so very, very much for listening today. I really appreciate it. I know time's the most valuable commodity we have, and the fact that you took time out of your busy day to listen, I'm truly grateful. And I would love it if you would listen to the message more than once and share it with others that could benefit from it. Because when you listen more than once, you're going to listen at a higher level than you did the first time. And you're going to pick up on things that maybe you missed the first time. And then also it's a way of kind of what I like to say, planting the right seeds in your mental garden, and not only planting those seeds, but continue to water those seeds and get those seeds the nutrients they need in order to grow into what you want. Because if we don't plant the right seeds, society's definitely going to plant the wrong ones, or just plant a bunch of weeds in our mental garden. And that's where that negativity comes in. That's where that all stoves are the same comes in, and everybody's out to get me comes in. There's some bad people out there. There's a lot of good people out there too. So we have to, what we look for, we'll surely find, and what we plant will surely grow. So let's plant the right stuff. Sound good? All right, folks, I love you. God loves you. Please share that love with the world. And until we talk again, you get out there and do your best, and I promise you'll be your very best. God bless you. God bless your loved ones. Can't wait to chat with you again real soon. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you so very much for listening in today. I am truly grateful for your time. My goal is to empower 10 million people with hope, faith, and confidence to believe in themselves to become bully-proof. But I can't do it alone. So if you found value in this message, please share it with someone else who could benefit from it, and by subscribing and leaving a 5-star review. Remember to stay empowered throughout the week by visiting our social media channels, Rogan's Bully Proof, and our website, rogansbullyproof.com. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to pick up copies of all our Bully Proof books for yourself and someone you care about. Thank you again, and make it a blessed day.